Today we're talking about the deadly trend of teenage texting and driving and why it has to stop. We mentioned we're in the 100 deadliest days following Memorial Day as kids get out of school and many are getting their license for the first time. Dan Riley with Nathan's Driving School is here with us on the program. And Dan, thank you so much for joining us. This is really interesting because you have a big challenge these days teaching teens to drive, and they have so many distractions now with texting and driving and phones and tablets or whatever they're carrying with them. First, before we get into a demonstration, which I hear you have for us, talk about Joshua's Law.
Okay, well, Joshua's Law came about in 2007, which the good thing about that is it's now a graduated licensing program, so teens actually go through steps getting to the point where they can finally get their Class C license. The first step is getting their permit, doing a written test, and then going through a course, 30-hour course and 6 hours in car lessons. And then once they complete that, is practicing, making sure they have 40 hours of total driving, 6 hours at nighttime. And then the next step is to get their license, their Class D license, which is a big step for teens. They're really anxious to get through that permit stage and get to the point where they're actually getting their license and they can drive by themselves.
How much more challenging is it these days for someone like you to educate teens on driving with all the distractions that they have?
Teens actually want to know. And actually, by the time they complete the class, they actually know more about some of the laws than people that are already driving on the road. Okay. And one of the things that they're surprised with is that, they'll say in the car, why didn't that person use their blinkers? Why did that person cut me off? Why is that person tailgating me? And we tell them these are the things you're going to have to deal with out here. Okay, and that's what we're teaching you, both in classroom and in car lessons. The fact that you're going to be dealing with a lot of different changing situations on the road, and you got to stay focused on what you're doing. And that's a big problem for a lot of teens, is actually staying focused while they're driving, because there's things they just don't see.
Yeah. Dan, can you give us a demonstration on how difficult it can be to text and drive and the dangers of it?
Sure.
I know you brought some props.
Okay.
So show me what you got here and what you're teaching teens these days.
Well, one of the things that we have here, we're going to have a make-believe steering wheel.
Okay.
Okay. If you hold
All
that
right,
up.
this is my make-believe steering wheel.
And this is a make-believe cell phone.
Okay. Great.
So while you're driving, the thing that you want to do is you really want to stay focused on your driving, but it's hard to do that when you're driving and texting. So I'm going to toss a couple of balls at you, and I want you to avoid. This would be oncoming traffic.
First red flag here, Dan. I see I don't have hands on 10 and 2.
Exactly.
I would have failed my driving test at your school, right?
And actually, we teach it today at 9 and 3 and 4 and 8 because of airbags. You don't want to have your hands up high because airbags will come off, your hands will come back into your face.
Things have changed.
A lot of students are taught 10 and 2.
Started driving before airbags. All right, so here we go. So I'm texting and driving. All right, we'll see what you got here.
So we want you to avoid this hazard. Okay.
Yeah.
And you notice what happened as you were trying to avoid the hazard, you turned the steering wheel.
Yeah,
you first turned it to the left, you turned it to the right, which means you could have went into oncoming traffic. So if what we do sometimes, we'll hold fingers up at the same time to see if you can see how many fingers we're holding up at the same time as you're trying to text, as you're trying to watch traffic.
Go ahead, hold up some fingers here.
Okay, so
and I'm not supposed to look forward, right?
Well, you want to look forward also because you want to look at traffic. Okay, so if I got...
No, I can't tell.
Okay. So these are all the things that are going on around you
can't tell.
While you're driving. And so in these types of situations, how are you going to deal with all these other, hazards? And what you want to try to do is minimize hazards, and it's by paying attention to and staying focused on driving itself.
And when Dan was throwing those balls at me, it was like a reflex. I mean, I saw something peripherally, and it made me jerk to the left and then jerk to the right. I'm still holding onto that steering wheel. And as you mentioned, you could lose control of the car, go into oncoming traffic. Horrible situation.
Correct.
And not only for yourself, but for the driver on the other side of the road that you're, approaching. I mean, who may be completely innocent and not texting and driving.
Well, the problem we also have out there is we don't know what condition the other driver on the road is. We don't know if they're under the influence of alcohol. We don't know if they're on drugs. We don't know if they're on legal drugs. We don't know if they just had a fight with their boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife. There's a lot of other things going on out there, and the only thing that you're able to control is yourself. You can't control anything else in your environment. So as a safe driver, you want to make sure that you're minimizing your risk by putting this away.
Yeah, and when I'm on the road, I want to be a defensive driver, and for
Exactly.
me to be a defensive driver, not knowing who I might be approaching or who's on the other side, I need to pay attention to all of my surroundings, and I just can't do
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Clearly, I couldn't do that. I was, turning the steering wheel too quickly and could lead to something terrible. What else do you teach the kids, too?
Well, we
besides this kind of
teach
stuff?
the young people also. We use these drunk goggles
Oh, cool.
to teach them what happens in an actual traffic stop when you put these goggles on. They're probably equivalent to being under the influence of 0.10.
Wow.
So when they have the goggles on, we have them walk the straight line by looking up, heel to toe. We also have them pick up various items. We put coins out on the pavement and try to find the dime. They're not able to do it. We toss balls to them like we just tossed here to see if they can catch it, and they can't. So there's
Should we try the ball thing to see if I can
Sure.
catch the ball here?
Sure.
Oh my goodness. Are you sure this is, would you say 0.1? Okay. I can't see anything here.
Okay.
Oh, look at that.
Okay.
And promise you I can catch the ball.
Yeah.
Man, those are rough.
Yeah. So these are the things that we expose them to. Also, when we talk to our students too, the important thing is for them to make sure that they're doing what they can do to protect themselves. To try to get that message through them. And one of the things that they run into, we talked about texting, but a lot of it is their parents setting an example for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Because some of the students will say, "Well, my mom texts, and I ask her not to do it." So by the children seeing their parents doing things that they're told not to do,
Right.
that eventually they're going to start doing it.
Yeah.
So it's a constant education process.
I think these are like a 1.1, not a 0.1.
They probably
Those are really tough.
Yeah.
But this was a good example too, Dan. You were great. Very good information and stuff that things have changed these days.
Yes.
And especially for our generation and older generations, it's different. And there's so many different challenges. So this is all great information that we have for you. Now, we talk about the importance of putting the phone down while driving and how technology at your fingertips and at the fingertips of teens can be problematic, but there are good things to consider in today's high-tech world. Apps that promote safe driving. Many of them are free. So our next story comes from a teen who almost died while texting and driving. Today, she has a cause you need to hear. Amanda Clower was nearly killed in a horrific car accident because she was distracted. Amanda says she often used her phone to text and talk while driving and wants to warn people how damaging it can be.
I was in the hospital for 2 months straight, and then when they finally discharged me, I was still in and out of surgery for literally over 2 years. It's changed my life forever. I have pain every single day, and it's not something that will ever go away.
Now Amanda keeps her phone in the back seat, far from reach, while she's driving. Our partner Consumer Reports tested another solution. Free apps for Android phones that inactivate most of your phone while you're driving. There's Sprint's Drive First, Safely Go from Verizon, and AT&T's Drive Mode. All three block the text as promised and sent back an automatic reply, which you can customize. And they each can limit incoming calls to a short list. With the Verizon app, you turn it on each time you're about to drive. The others go on automatically, which is an advantage.
So once you're going a certain speed, AT&T is 25 miles per hour and Sprint is 10 miles per hour, you don't have to think about it.
And Sprint also offers a website where parents can monitor what their teen is doing with their phone while driving. Consumer Reports found all three apps work well and might prevent more accidents like Amanda's. Now, if you're an iPhone user, you can go to your settings and select Do Not Disturb before you get behind the wheel. There's also that airplane mode. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this to wrap up this week's show.